Hey, welcome back. All right, so in this tutorial, we are going to make some materials. We completed the UVs for our platform in the last tutorial, and we modeled it, of course, in the previous tutorials to that. We're all ready to go ahead and start putting materials onto our platform, but we need some materials to do that. So in this tutorial, I'm gonna show you real quick how to use the downloaded textures and create our own materials for our platform. Let me kind of walk you through what I'm talking about. All right, again, here's the platform, and here's our demo platform over here. Right now, we don't have any additional material inputs, and we only have the world grid material on it right now. What we want to do is we want to be able to have some materials to create our material input, our material slots for our platform. And you can see that over here. So how are we going to do that? Well, we can download some textures, and we have several different choices of doing that. Okay. This is a site called textures.com. And on this site, you can download some free textures down in here. You can also sign up for an account and get some credits so that you can download some that aren't necessarily free, but you don't have to pay for anything unless you want to get some premium. And by premium, if I click on this one, what I mean is, if you take a look, typically the free credits will usually cover something like small or medium size textures. If you want to get the higher quality textures, you would need a premium account so you can get more credits to do so. Now, there are, like I said, some free ones, so these would be totally free and you could download those. There's also Polyhaven. Polyhaven is what I'm going to use, and I've downloaded several wood materials because I was thinking that the platform that I'm going to make might have wood in it, or maybe the whole thing will be made out of wood, as opposed to the other one, the demo one, which is made out of metal. So you can see here we have some different choices. The third choice, besides going to other sites and finding free textures, is here on Fab. If you go to Fab and type in Quixel and then change the price to free and select your material textures here, you end up with a lot of material textures that are free. You can find all kinds of cool ones in here as well. There's a lot of them, and you may find what you're looking for. If you use these, then you probably won't need to set the materials up or the material instances because they'll already come set up for you. You'll just add it to your project, and then you can use that material or that material instance and apply it directly to your model. That's also an option if you don't want to follow along with what I'm going to show you in this tutorial. So again, what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on one of these, and then over here, if you hit the little sandwich there, you'll see that you can choose the type of downloads that you want to have and which maps you want to download. I usually select all of these because as I've discovered going through creating different textures and materials, that sometimes I needed a different texture, or a texture like this arm right here may not give me the detail that I'm looking for, but there may be a roughness texture here that might give me a little bit more detail, and I can kind of play around with those until I get the look that I want. So something to think about. So anyway, once you got the materials selected or the textures maps that you want, you hit the download button, and then it would go into your downloads folder. And from this site, it would come in as a zipped folder. So you would right click on it, and then you do an extract all. And you'd want to put it into a folder that that you've created, right? So here, if I click on this, you'll see that I have on my D drive a textures file, and then I have textures file. Then I have some sub files. This particular one is called wood, and then I would create a new folder and put it into that folder. So in this case, my dark planks, I downloaded it, I unzipped it, put it into here, and then I have these textures that came with this dark plank. And you see I have an EXR for this bump map. Now, we're not going to use the bump map, but you can drag and drop all these into Unreal Engine. And the way you can do that is if I go into Unreal Engine and then pull up that texture, you can see here I have one called Dark Planks, and I just drag and dropped them all in. And this is that EXR. It's a kind of funky looking red thing for a bump map. Now, a bump map is something that would give you kind of like a appearance of 3D, sort of like a normal map, sort of like a displacement map, but it works a little bit differently. But we're not going to get into that in this tutorial. But what we are going to use is we're going to use some of these other textures here, okay? And the easiest way to do that is once you get it downloaded, what we can do is we can find the diffuse, so the DIFF one, which is this one right here. This is our color map, right? So if I click on it, I can right-click, I can create a material, and when I create this material, it's going to throw a bunch of stuff on the end that I don't necessarily want. It's also going to make these all lowercase, and I, with my OCD, can't get past that sometimes. And then at the very end, I'm going to put an M underscore. So M underscore dark planks, and this will be a material. I'm going to hit enter. I'm going to do a file save all so I don't lose it. And now I have beginnings of a material. So if I double click that and open it up, I have this material right here. Okay. That's the start of this. But I'm going to need a couple more things to continue doing this. I also want the arm. So this is our ambient occlusion, roughness, and metal, or metalness for our texture. It's all packed into one texture here. And I'm also going to want a normal map. And I'm going to select the one with the GL in it. They both would probably work, but I've just been using it this way. I'm going to drop them both in here. So there's my arm, and there is my normal map. And what I'm going to do before I do anything else with this arm is I need to set it up so that it's going to work correctly. Right now, it's set up as a color map. You see that down here? We're going to want to change this to a mask, but we can't just change it here because it'll throw up a bunch of errors. So I'm going to double click on the little swash there and open it up. Over here, for compression settings, is right now it's set to default and it's set up as an sRGB. Okay. We're going to want to change this to a mask. So if I hit the down arrow, I'm going to pick mask, no sRGB. Okay. And you can see it threw up some errors here for me. Oh, that's weird. I thought I fixed that. But anyway, so this glass right here, this is something totally different. Okay, so I was going to go in, I'm just going to clear this out and redo this piece of it, but this is kind of a good learning amount here. When we get an arrow thrown up like this, we can see here that we have this glass red that I made, and it says that basically I've turned on nanite with it, which true I did, but I thought I went in and fixed that earlier so that this wouldn't show up at all. But when you change something on one of these textures, it's going to go through and look at all your materials, and you may get some errors in here that have nothing to do with the material that you're working on right now. And that's okay. We're going to go ahead and move forward, and then we'll address this later. So now, once we've changed this to mask, no sRGB, we've also got this little sRGB that was check marked. It's gone now, okay? So we want to uncheck it. Make sure it's not checked. And then down here for the filter type, we're going to change it from default textured group. If you hit the down arrow, we're going to select this top one called nearest. Bilinear will also work, but usually we'll try nearest first to see how that looks. I'm going to go ahead and hit save. Now, let's kind of talk about what this actually is now that we set it up as a mask. Each one of these channels, the RGB, each gives us a different piece of this arm. So basically, it's several texture maps that are packed together into one texture map. By changing it to mask, which is what this is, it'll make our texture work a little bit more efficiently in our game, and it will also be read a little bit cleaner so that our texture should look a little better. So if we turn off RGB and we go back through, now alpha is not used, so we see this kind of bright spot for alpha. We're not using alpha for this. But at the R is our ambient occlusion. So you can see that we get some shadowing in here and the way the light's going to kind of play off of this. The G is our roughness, so we can kind of see where there's going to be some shinier areas and some darker areas. So this is what's going to determine the roughness of our map, okay, or of our material. And then B is how metallic our material is going to look. So whether there should be any metal or no metal or some, and we'll see varying shades of gray based off of the different metallic maps that we're going to use, right? So they're not all going to be the same. So when we turn that all back on, it packs it all together into this one map. Now, if I go back to my material, right here where it says sampler type, I'm going to change that from color, and I'm going to select masks, and I'm going to hit save. And that's still throwing up errors. We'll worry about that later. It's not going to affect what we're working on right now. So again, here's our arm. What we're going to do is we're going to take the R and connect that to ambient occlusion. The G is our roughness. And we can kind of see how it starts to change over here. And then the B is our metallic. Okay. And this is one of those cases where it's looking a little kind of shinier than I want it to be. But let's go ahead and get this normal on here. And, oh, you know what? I connected to specular. That's why. Let's undo that. This should actually be roughness. No wonder why it didn't look right. There we go. It's a little better. Now let's go ahead and get our normal set up, and then we'll continue forward, okay? So I'm going to right-click here, and I want a QMF, and I'm going to get the QMF normal adjustments. I'm going to plug the RGB into the normal V3 right here. Right here where it says normal intensity, this is what we're going to use as a parameter to be able to set the normal adjustment in our material instance. So I'm going to right-click over that, and I'm going to promote to parameter. That's going to give me my normal intensity. It already names it for me. And I'm going to set this as a default of 1. And then I'm going to connect this up to my normal right there. All right. Now for specular. Right now it's set at default to 5. I'm going to right-click on it. I'm going to promote it to parameter. And I'm going to put this back as the default 0.5. That'll give us another dimension that we can adjust, another setting inside of our material instance that allows us to kind of adjust it. Now, the last thing I need to do is I need to make it so that I can tile these. Because when I put this material on, it's going to just be this one material. It's going to stretch over our entire model. I may want to tile it down so it doesn't look quite so stretched. And the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to right-click. There's already a material function that's written for this. So mf_tile. And we're going to get several choices. The default one that's picking here is usually the one that works okay for me. I haven't looked at all of them. I assume they're all the same, but they may not be. So I'm not going to commit to that, but they may be all the same. And then I'm going to just connect this up. So result into the UV, and it should look like that. I'm going to go ahead and save it. All right. So now with that done, we've got our material set up. I'm going to go back into the content drawer, and I lost it. So let me go to my materials, into the wood, and into dark planks. And right here is that material we just created. I'm going to right-click, and I'm going to create a material instance. I'm going to leave it all the same, except at the very beginning, I'm going to change it to MI_dark planks and leave the instance at the end of it. I'm going to hit save all. Okay. Now I'm going to kind of grab that down a little bit. Actually, yeah, I'm going to park these up here so they're out of the way. I'm going to close this. We'll open that back up in a minute and see if the errors went away. So let's go ahead and go back into our material instance. Double click on the material instance and open that up. Go back into my sandbox. I'm going to select my model. With the material instance selected, I'm going to hit the little arrow there. And we can see we've got one giant wood plank across our object here. So with the material instance selected, I'm going to drag it off. I'm going to select tiling right here. And I'm going to make 5 and 5. I'm going to make them all both the same size so that we kind of get this kind of look happening here. And the way this looks is you can see it's kind of like slats, right? So they're one on top of the other. And that's what we got here. We got these slats kind of going on. And we may not like the direction that they're facing because, again, they're slats. They're obviously going to go a certain direction. If you put them up on a wall and they're sideways, you may want to rotate them, right? So we have a rotation angle right here. And the way this works is 0 to 1. So 0 being 0 degrees, 1 being 360 degrees, and everything in between. So 0.25 would be 90 degrees. So we can rotate it 90 degrees. And of course, 0.5 would be 180 degrees. So there we go. We've got it kind of rotated this way. And that looks a little bit better. Let's go ahead and see if this texture cleaned up. It did. All the errors went away. And I don't know why it popped up like that. It's because I had, like I said, the glass set up wrong earlier and I cleaned it up. But if you end up with any of those errors, if it has nothing to do with your texture, you're okay. If it throws up some errors, everything we just did should have fixed those errors. Okay, so that's it for this tutorial. We've got our material set up, and that's the same process that you can use whenever you're using an arm to get your material all set up. In the next tutorial, we're going to go over how to create our own glass. I was going to put it with this one, but we're at 15 minutes already, and also you may not want glass. So there's no reason to have a tutorial that covers that. We can go into a separate tutorial and have that on its own. All right. So again, hopefully if you have any questions, you can hit me up in the comments. I will get back to you. If you have any issues, also hit me up in the comments. Let me know. And don't forget to like this tutorial. If you like what you saw, please subscribe to my channel so you can keep up with all the tutorials I'm throwing out there. And thanks for playing. I'll see you next time.